Did you make, did you make any progress on that? It's one of those things, the optical illusion. You get one side right and no matter, and you go measure it and it still is right, but your eyes tell you that it's wrong. We are in Genesis, what are we? 26. That's what my notes say. We're in 26. And we are making our way finally into the chaos of Jacob's life, much of it self-inflicted. But isn't that the way of the human? Here's a family tree, which we looked at last time, I think, didn't we? Yeah, because I left out Lot, although he dead ends anyway. But we're down there where Jacob is going to become Israel in, I don't know, 7 or 8 no, a couple of chapters, I guess, ahead. But we're beginning his story. Esau is going to depart shortly. We have a little bit of a diversion because we're going back to, we're in the middle of, they got to deal with these Canaanites, these peoples of the land. And, they have these ways of dealing with them that aren't really approved by modern sensibilities. And well, neither is the behavior of the Gentiles, but you've got these kings that take harems and they just do it. And so, anybody, I guess, appears that anybody in the land is fair game. And so Abraham dealt with it with Sarah. And now Isaac is dealing with it with Rebecca. And so that's a chapter we're in the middle of. It's a replay. I think it's the third one now. So apparently this was a big deal. This was a common thing. And it was so common that they had planned on it. If this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And this is what I want you to do, says both Abraham and Isaac. And so that's happened to Isaac. Isaac's wife got the attention, or was going to get the attention, or he was worried she was going to get the attention of the Gentiles, or not Gentiles yet, and they're the people of the land. They will become the Gentiles when there is a people of God on the other side. But they have to deal with it again. So we're in the middle of that story. And it's very similar to Abraham's story when he went to Egypt, and also it's different in important ways. One of which is God forbids the movement of Isaac back to Egypt. Read between the lines. You're not going to do what Abraham did. You're going to stay in the land. You just inherited the promise. This is the land of the promise. This is where the blessings of the promise exist. The blessings of the promise exist on the land of the promise. And that will continue all the way through to the exile for 1,500 more years. And then when they are expelled from the land, that's the end of the blessings of the promise. Because on the land, in the covenant with Abraham, under the law of Moses, on the land of Canaan, where God is dwelling in your midst, that's the domain of blessing. Outside of that domain, there is the curse of Deuteronomy, whatever chapter it was. I forgot it. 28. I forget which chapter it was. You can go read it. It's laborious to read. God does not curse lightly, neither does he do it reluctantly. That passage says that not only will he not, if they depart from the law and rebel against him, not only will he curse them, he will delight in cursing them. That's his words, not mine. And so, he does everything he does without regret. God never had a single regret in his whole life. He never wished he would have done something else. Always does what he wants to do and always does the right thing. And so that's what Isaac is up against. For better or for worse, you're hemmed in. Now you're constrained. You have a perimeter, and that perimeter is, if Moses is the perimeter, is the boundary marker marking off the people of God, in a sense, so is the land. The land is also a literal, physical, geographical boundary marker for the people of God. And that is now enforced. And when they leave the land of Egypt, or the land of Israel, Canaan, the next time, it will be under the providence of God with the full intent of him bringing them back. but that will be under his guidance and not their, there'll be another famine. And he will take the decision out of their hands. Because they're not going to want to go to Egypt, and he will take over at that point. Because he has other designs for the time being. Plays the long ball. Okay. So here in about verse 12, Isaac and his encounter with, unpleasant encounter with the king over where we will eventually see the 5 cities of the Philistines. Anybody name the 5 cities of the Philistines?
Ashkelon,
Ekron, what's missing?
Gaza, I don't know.
I forgot. There's a 5th one and I forgot it. Shame on me. I don't think so. No, you got me. Dang it. Look at this. Look what Mike did to me. Look what Mike did to me.
So. Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza.
Is Gaza one of the cities? I didn't. I remember that. Huh. Okay. All right. Okay, so he gets this insulting protection from the king of the king of that land. Not in the interest of Isaac, but in the interest of his own people, because he's figured out that if we harm this fellow, he's figured out that we will be cursed by his God or something like that. And so he wants to protect his own people. And so we're already seeing this idea of I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. We've seen it over and over again. And here it is again, where the king of the land wants to make sure he's not on the wrong side of that equation. So he pronounces this statement in verse 11, whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. And then we'll continue on. Oh, wait a minute, I got notes. No, I don't. Let's go. I want to get to 27. And Isaac sowed in the land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. You will see that with Jacob shortly. And the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. Of course, Abraham was already wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and many servants, so that the Philistines envied him. Now, and then there's this parenthetical, they put the parentheses in, so I probably shouldn't even say that. We decided it was parenthetical. As a demonstration of the envy of the Philistines had stopped and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham, his father. So this narrative is very well aware of the relationship between Abraham and the previous king of that land. And Abimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you are much mightier than we. And this is a recurring theme where they have to try to find a home in this land. They're not allowed to leave it, and they're not necessarily being welcomed. Everything is competition, right? Scarce resources and so forth, water, grazing land, so on and so forth. And so, that competition, that brings out the worst in people. We Are the World exists only in a song written by, was that Lionel Richie?
I think it's Michael Jackson also.
I don't remember. Anyway, no, we're not the world. There's no such thing.
Back in my college days.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. All right, so he's doing very well to the point where Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie.
Oh.
That's another one of those songs like Imagine. That's just like, not a single word of that is true. That's wrong. That's wrong too. Nope, that's never going to happen. All the way through the song. You might as well sing that. what's that song Barry Manilow wrote for, was it Coke or Pepsi? I'd like to teach the world to sing. Yeah, that song right there, yeah. Just, yeah, just drink the drink and sing that thing. And, you know, has as much. Okay, that's all. I don't have any more to say about that. It's just evidence of the blessings of the covenant. The curses are not coming because Abimelech prevented that, probably by the providence of God. And now there's going to be blessings because he's staying in the land where there is blessing on the child of promise. I think that was Barry Manilow that wrote this song.
Yeah. You wrote a lot of first before you came famous.
He did? Commercials?
Yeah.
So Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar, settled there. Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, which the Philistines had stopped after the death of Abraham, and gave them the names that his father had given them. So they don't want people taking over this land, so they do that kind of thing. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of spring water, the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the name of the well Ezek. I don't know what that means. Because they contend with him. We'll assume the name means something like well of contention. Then they dug another well and they quarreled over that one also. So he called the name Sitnah. Maybe that means another well of contention. I don't know. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth, which means not a well of contention. I don't know.
Sitna means enmity. Rebuff means broad places or room.
Sure, we'll go with it. For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. So at least he's seeing that, right? Funny how these wells are an indication of the blessing of God and where you're supposed to settle. If you can't find water, well, maybe that's not the place for you. You're not going to sit there and starve, and because your animals are going to starve. You're going to do something about it. And do I got anything to say about this? 22, let's see. All right, I don't have anything to say about that. He finds a place, which is expected, because God told him to. You're not going to Egypt. So he has to fumble around for a while, but eventually it sorts itself out. All right, we're just going to move along. He went up to Beersheba. That's interesting. That's interesting. He went up to Beersheba.
So we prepare ourselves.
Yeah, he's getting on the edge, right? Let's take a look at that. He's kind of pushing his luck a little bit, I think. Where's my favorite? Where's my favorite? This one here. I need to rename it my favorite. This is not my favorite. Ouch. There's Beersheba right there. So he went south of Beersheba, man. We're not that far away from, you're going to end up in Sinai if you go much farther. So he's pretty close. He's trying to find a place to live. Here's where Abimelech controls. So he's moved south until he's almost getting run out of, the southern part of Canaan. There he finally finds someplace before he ends up back in Egypt. So that's a good thing. All right.
Maybe it's like Jerusalem. They always say you go up to Jerusalem to ascend a hill. So maybe there should go somewhere on the
Could
hill.
be. Yeah, you're right. It could be.
Yeah, just about any time in the Old Testament scriptures, they refer, or in the Bible, refer any place else is going down, going up to Jerusalem, or any place else is going down. Good point.
Okay, so he settles in, and it appears he settles in at Beersheba. And now he gets another appearance. He previously got an appearance to reaffirm the covenant, right? You're the heir to the covenant, to the promise that I made to Abraham, which we already knew. Now he reappears to him. I am the God of Abraham, your father. That will expand. And by the time of Jesus, it will be a definitive statement of identity for the people of Israel. I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. You shall, so on and so forth. Actually, let's look at something here. That's going to make its way into thinking out loud. No, it's just I am the Lord your God. Never mind. And the Lord appeared to him that same night. I am the God of your father, of Abraham your father. Fear not, for I am with you and will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake. So he built there an altar and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. Isn't that interesting, that association between that altar and that well? They dig a well there. This is it. The well says, this is roots. Speaking of altars. Oops, not that altar. There's no place like home. Even if it's just a well.
Well, it's had a lot of significance in scripture.
12:7. 12:7 with Abraham right after the promise. The Lord appeared to Abraham and said, to your offspring, I will give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. Only he did not stay put. He kept right on going. But anyway, this is at, where is this? Shechem. So this is Abraham's first altar was Shechem. And this is the first evidence of an altar for Isaac. This is the way, yeah, I'm looking at my notes again. This is the way that God will introduce himself. This is the way that God will appear to Moses in Exodus chapter 3. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And then they launch into their thing. But that's how he introduces himself to Moses. And from here on in, man, Abraham is the man. Abraham is the origination point, the beginnings, if you will. So like we talked about before, Genesis is a book of beginnings. You have, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And in the beginning, God called Abraham to be his servant, out of which he will form a people of God.
Side note, looking at verse 24 where it says the Lord, that would be Yahweh. I'm reading a novel, it must have been written by a Jewish person, and they use the term Hashem, which means the name. Instead of saying, and the Lord appeared, they would say, and the name appeared to him. Same night, and I found that very interesting. I had to look the word up because I didn't know what it was.
I haven't heard that before.
But also, God told Moses in Exodus that he had not revealed his name to Abraham, but we see it all over in Genesis. And so.
You see it from the narrator.
It's from the narrator.
Yeah. All right, we're not done with Abimelech yet. We'll go to, we're going to go to 31. When Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Ahuzath, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army, he means business here. He's bringing the commander of the army. So apparently Isaac was a formidable presence. Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you? And they said, we see plainly that the Lord has been with you. Isn't it? It's amazing how many times that sort of thought comes out of the mouth of a Gentile. For example, the Queen of the South with Solomon. It's not the only time either. I have to hunt him down, but It's often Melchizedek with Abraham. You know, somebody who's not among this group comes in from the outside and pronounces some statement like this, even into the New Testament with demons, where the demons answer the question asked by the disciples after the sea is quieted. Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? That's a rhetorical question coming from their mouth. In the next story, I don't remember which gospel. In the next story, that question is answered by a demon. What have we to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High, or something like that? Lord is with you. So we said, let there be a sworn pact between us, between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. There it is, out of the mouth of a Gentile. Oh, that Jacob would have just learned this lesson early in life, right? I am the blessed of the Lord. But apparently these Gentiles figure it out sooner and better than these patriarchs do.
I'm wondering if he snickered when they said, we have done nothing but good to you, and they kept filling in his wells.
Kept filling in his wells. Yeah, you know, we tend to want to steal your wives, but let's just let bygones be bygones. Those don't count. None of that don't count. So he made them a feast and they ate and drank. In the morning, they rose up and exchanged oaths. Isaac sent them away they sent them on their way and they departed from him in peace. That same day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug and said to him, we have found water. Wells, 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 and what they mean. And called it Sheba, whatever that means.
Oath.
Well of oath. Therefore the name, it's an origin story. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. So what he's saying is, like Bethel. Bethel was a place name, right? It's a name that the Israelites gave it hundreds of years after this story in Genesis. But the author who writes Genesis is using that name to refer to this city, Bethel. And so here we get an origin story about how this name Beersheba that these people used came to be. And the answer is, it's another well story.
Beersheba mean?
Well, I think Bear must mean well, and so Beersheba and well both.
Well, yeah, it's the well.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder when they come up with that means this, when they say this name, this word means this, they're just reading in the text and going, it must mean that because, like contention,
Yeah. But if I remember right, with the thing with Hagar, the word bear was in bear la Roy. So, and that was another well issue. So,
Oh, okay.
and but Arctic.
All right. What else have I got to say about this?
They jump right into Esau.
Yeah, we got to get back to Esau in a second. It's a big diversion, right? Yeah, they do this. Why here? Why this here? Why before continuing the story of Isaac Esau and Jacob does he stick this story here? And
But at least 27, and probably because chapter divisions, verse divisions were not part of original text. I would say this was a 4-chapter division.
I think the reason that he sticks this story here is so that we understand that in the context, we understand this new situation as the context for Jacob and Esau. They're not leaving. They are not leaving. This is it. They are now constrained. Jacob then is going to leave. Was he doing, how does this work? Was he being disobedient? I mean, they just got through saying, don't go down to Egypt, this is your land, and then Jacob's gonna get up and flee. So, I don't know. It's very strange. I'm not sure. I'm not sure anybody else is either. Okay. Well, I don't have anything more to say about Wells and Abimelech, and we can leave him behind. We can get back to the story at hand. Let's remind ourselves of where we came from. Where were we?
Hey, Gary,
Yes,
I've got one thing to say about the Wells.
okay,
I bet his servants hated it every time he moved.
yeah, yeah,
Good
They're
point.
like, oh no, we're going to have to start digging again. Because, doing a well back then wasn't easy.
well, it could also be that they have no choice. They have to
Right.
water, so, they hate
And that's
moving. but they
exactly
hate-
right.
They hate moving, but they hate, what do you call it when you dehydrate to death? Is there a word for that? Like they're starved to death, right? Or what is it? What is it when you dehydrate to death? We need a word for that.
Dehydrated.
You
I don't
unwater.
know.
I don't know what the word is for that, but that's what's happened. That's what you're worried about.
Yeah. And I would imagine that when they dig a well, it was probably not just one well because they probably hit some dry spots before they found
Yeah.
one.
I mean, how do you know, right? So you,
Right. So it's a good thing he had a lot of servants.
yep. So this is where we came from with Esau. It was the story of him selling his birthright. Kind of a strange interlude with Abimelech, but that's where they chose to put it. And there's really not a connection chronologically or, in the setting with that previous story. He just stops. He doesn't say when there was a famine in the land. He just starts telling the story. So we don't know when this story took place in regard to the birth of Esau and Jacob. Now we're back to Esau.
I imagine back then, they didn't like have calendars on their phones, on their walls. It was one day at a time. They took one day at a time. So saying it was in this year of so and so's birth, I would imagine most of the time that didn't matter a whole lot to them.
Not at the time, yeah. That's for a record. That's for chronicling your traditions for posterity.
Right. But I imagine most days it was like we get up, we get our our food together for the day, we give our servants the orders, we rest when it's hot in the afternoon, we have our supper, and we go to bed and we start all over again. So
Yeah, distance living, or if you're rich, it's still laborious every day. You're taking care of the needs of the day.
right, they didn't have all of the crazy things we have, ball games, movies. They didn't have all these things to schedule, so they just went one day at a time. And really that's kind of kind of what the Lord tells us to do, that each day has enough troubles of its own. So don't worry about tomorrow.
Good point.
All
Nice
right.
to hear you, Gary. We missed you.
34, we're back to Esau. When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, to be his wife. So we have this intermarriage going on. Not a child of the promise, right? Esau. So immediately he intermarries with the people of the land. And Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. So two Hittites. Hittites are under a curse. They're one of the people groups that are cursed in Genesis 15. And they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. Very, very predictable.
Well, Elon, incident, you see, in bed with those, I think that is, was an Elon, the family that, Abraham, bought the land out to bury Isaac, or.
Oh, that could be. That could be the land. Elon, the Elon could be was his name Elon? I'm not looking it up. You guys can do it.
Call it being Elon, but we'll figure it out. Efron.
Oh, that was Ephron. Never mind then.
Pretty close. They both start with an E and both end with an on.
Okay, so remember, we already know that Jacob is going to get the promise. He's going to be the heir. And already the situation is heading in that direction because we can see the other guy who should have been the heir departing from the rules and intermarrying with the people.
You know, they weren't supposed to leave the land, so how do they get lost? They did their marriage.
Exactly. That's the conundrum that Abraham was in. Do not, he will not take a wife from this land, and he will not leave this land.
But Abraham sent his servant.
So the servant,
Isaac really should have sent his servant to find Jacob a wife. Instead of,
well, Isaac, Isaac is gonna want Esau.
yeah,
And what did Isaac know and when did he know it is gonna be, or not, what did Isaac really believe? Because it's not like Abraham comes around, right? Eventually he comes around. But Isaac just kind of does his thing. Or maybe he does know when he blesses Jacob instead of Esau. Even though through deception, he does not change his mind. He said, no, maybe it's not, you have to read it between the lines. Maybe he said to himself, no, this is God at work here. This is gonna stand. I don't know. It doesn't say that. Interesting that it doesn't say that.
when we talk about progressive revelation, that God reveals more and more of himself as time went on, but I think that's also personally true as well. There's in a sense, we progressively come to understand more and more about God, and I have to do the same thing that's going on with Isaac.
Yeah, they just don't report it.
Yeah. Well, they can't report everything.
No, but I mean, it's a classic case of, they're not telling the story we want to hear. They're telling the story that we need to hear.
Yeah.
They don't answer our questions, and we want answers to our questions. So as I've said before, if you want to get more out of Bible study, try to figure out what questions the text is trying to answer and ask those questions.
I think part of our difficulties in understanding any of it is that it's written in an Eastern mindset, we're so Western mindset.
Okay, let's see. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, my son, and he said, here I am. He said, behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons and your quiver and your bow and go out to the field and hunt game for me. Prepare for me delicious food such as I love and bring it to me so that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. And there's that word, bless, right? Well, we know this can't happen. We know what he plans on doing. So we already know that will not stand. Something will divert Isaac from giving Esau the blessing. We just don't know what it is. And it will not be an appearance from God, which he's already done. At least twice, appeared to Isaac to tell him something, one of which was, don't go to Egypt. So why not appear to Isaac and say, no to Esau, yes to Jacob? We don't see that. And obviously that hasn't happened. So now we're going to do a little word search just to show you how important that word bless is there in this narrative.
Mark off.
Huh?
Is that word mark off? Or?
1, 2, 3, 4, up to 24 times. Look at that.
In the one chapter.
Actually,
One chapter.
Wow.
rock, I think.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
24 occurrences in 46 verses. Every other verse. You think the author's trying to say something? Amazing. Let's curse. 4, I think.
What's your shedding, girl?
Curse is 4.
Good. It feels good to get it rubbed down.
Okay.
It's good for me when I rub.
So now we're going to move on from Isaac at this point and into the Jacob ordeal. So Abraham got 13 chapters, 12 to 24. Isaac will get about 3 chapters of real narrative, 25 to 27. Jacob will get 27 to 37. So 11 chapters. Joseph will get 13 chapters. Fascinating. We don't know how old he is. He just says, I'm old. Okay. We don't know when he's going to die.
The interesting thing here is Isaac was 60 when they were born. So I mean, in our standard, we would say he's all right, old, but, you know, he lived to be 185. So we know that Jacob had gone from the land at least 20 years before Isaac died. He was back in the land before Isaac died. So Esau and Jacob appear to be pretty old themselves when we're getting into this narrative.
Well,
Get married at 20.
he was 40 years old when he got the two Hittite wives.
Right, but Jacob may have been, well, you know, 60 or above.
All right, obviously. So before he despised his birthright, right? That was the story. That was the first real story about Jacob and Esau, other than in the womb. And so Esau despised his birthright. He sold it to Jacob for a bowl of stew or something. Obviously, Isaac doesn't know about it or care. If he knows, he doesn't care. Esau doesn't seem to care. He expected all this time that he would be the heir. So again, on the ground, I'm not sure what it is that Jacob thought he was going to gain by doing that. What was the gain from the human point of view? You're not going to see any evidence that Jacob cares at all about the God of Abraham for a while yet. It's just very strange.
And interesting, when you think about the blessing of the father to the son, you don't really see that outside of Genesis that I can think of. But there's something prophetic about all the blessings.
Let's see, what else have I got to say about this?
So Isaac is 100 years old when Esau got married.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
60 when Esau's.
What's interesting to me is those are also questions that they're not interested in answering.
Mhm.
Sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. We don't care when Esau married the two Hittites. What we care about is how old Isaac was when he pronounced this blessing. They give us the answer to the first question. They don't give us the answer to the second question.
Well, you know, really, he's 100, but he could have been older than 100.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing it, this says, and it came to pass, so this could have been years later.
Yeah.
after.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would think that it's within 30 years of the end of Isaac's life. He lived to be 185,
Right.
but that's my thinking in scripture itself, so.
Okay, so let's keep going.
Oh, so it was an old thing.
Okay, so Rebecca, here, let the guile continue, right? We got Jacob grabbing onto his heel. Let go of my heel, you meddlesome nuisance. And he deceives Esau into whatever it means to sell your birthright. And now we're going to see that old family trait pop back in with all of them, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Rebekah. Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau, so she knows what he wants. But she also knows something else. What does she know?
That Jacob's gonna get the blessing.
That she got that vision. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game, I guess she figures God needs some help here. Went to hunt for game and bring it. Rebekah said to her son Jacob, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game and prepare for me delicious food that I may eat and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me two good goats, so that I may prepare for them from them delicious food for your father, such as he loves. You shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies. But Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, oh, we shouldn't do that because that would be dishonest, and we want to do this God's way. Nope. My brother Esau is a hairy man. The calculation beginneth, right? He's calculating, if I do this, what are the difficulties? My brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him. Yes, you shall. And bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, let your curse be on me my son, only obey my voice and go bring them to me. So, yeah. It is what it is, right? So Jacob risks being cursed, and he knows it. While probably not knowing that he is already the heir of to the blessing. Now, it's also possible that Rebekah shared the vision with Jacob. And he got to work, which would be the impetus for the sell me your birthright incident. Because right off the bat, Rebekah says, why is this happening to me? And God says, well, there's two nations in your womb, and the older will serve the younger. Well, if she told that story to Jacob, depending on your character, you might do the sorts of things that Jacob is doing. That's all guesswork.
So their view of God isn't that he can bring it about, it's that we gotta help him. with his-
It's all calculation of my situation on the ground. Where is the higher devotion, the higher servitude, like David had? That's what we don't really see, or Paul or these people. These people, for them, it's God, it's their situation on the ground and the calculation of God's God's involvement in making things good for them. That's obviously how they think about it. But any higher religious devotion, there's no Judaism yet. There's no Christianity. There's none of that. So what is Jacob's religion? What are his religious beliefs? What are Rebekah's religious beliefs and religious system? How does she think about deity?
They have a concept of God, but it's not overly revealed at this point.
No. It's probably not developed.
They didn't have God's word. It's
No.
all word of mouth.
You get more from Abel. You might even get a little more from Cain. It's very strange.
Well, Cain and Abel's parents said, walk with God in the cool of the garden before sin. I probably still remember some of that stuff to communicate.
Yeah, you don't get any sense of a relational component here between Jacob and God, and even really between Rebekah and Isaac and God. This is calculation this is pure pragmatism about their situation in real time in their lives. That's how I read it.
Kind of like, God didn't reveal himself to them like he did others. The God's hand was still kind of.
Yes.
And like in their back, guiding them to where he wanted,
Well,
so.
if he's going to make pronouncements like, in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. You can't say that with the implicit with the expectation that that's going to come about because the guy you're choosing is going to be really devout and do all the right things, and all his progeny will too. You're going to take over, whether they like it or not. You're going to do what you need to do if you're God. And that's exactly what happens. There just is no sense of this religious devotion like we think of religious devotion that I can sense. And we won't see that until he starts to shape the people of God coming out of Sinai, for better or for worse. Sinai is kind of that. When they come out, when they enter the wilderness and they march across, that's the moment where for Israel, for the people of God, okay, this is not just about we're going to get something for it. He's our God for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, till death do I part. Well, you know what I mean, right? That's the moment. If I die, I'm going to die with God in devotion to God. This God, he's my God. That's what it means to declare this God as my God. to death, period, no matter what happens. The kind of Daniel approach to faith.
Now, this may be way too big of a rabbit trail, but the doctrine of unconditional election runs.
All through this.
in the narrative.
Yeah, election can operate on no other principle. And period. I mean, no, the plan of God can operate on no other principle. Think about what he's declared. The older shall serve the younger. Well, he has a lot of work to do because that just ain't right. And that just ain't natural. And nobody on the ground is going to want that to happen. So everybody's going to be working against it. So how is that going to come about? Did he just get lucky? He got really lucky because Jacob happened to be a really clever, deceptive person.
Well, just like, I mean, going through the story, well, when Jacob did come to his father, he questioned, you don't sound like
Yep.
Esau. You know, so it was kind of like, I usually knew there was something wrong with the situation, but, you know, and then he's like, well, come, let me feel you. And he feels, you know, and how Rebecca got all this hair on him, you know.
Be a
They didn't
skin.
have like glue back then, like, just put a whole bunch of glue, so she had to figure out somehow, you would have thought that, oh, you don't fit, that doesn't feel, you know, quite right, you know, and all that type of stuff, so. But he's like, talked him into it, so just put it on Esau, just do it, you know. Okay, you know.
If they were nothing else, they were clever. You can compare, so this is this is what they're gonna do. Did I finish this passage? Yeah, so this is the plan. They're gonna force the issue, and not because they want to do God's will or see God's will accomplished, but because Rebecca wants Jacob. That's the story. Compare that to David. We'll go to 2 Samuel in a minute, but 1 Samuel 24, David's on the run from Saul. And he ends up with Saul in a cave while he's sleeping. David has already been anointed by Samuel. So he knows he's going to be king. Or that God is, well, he knows what God's plan, God's will is. So he could look at the situation and he says, look what I've got. I got him right in front of me. And I can put a stake through his heart right now and become king. And he says, and Abishai, is that the Abishai story? No, that's not the Abishai story. Is that the one where he cuts a little piece of his robe off and he leaves, and then they have this encounter from across at a distance. And he said, look, I could have killed you, but I will not raise it. What does he say? I will not raise my hand against the Lord's anointed. And so Saul is humbled for a moment. It's not going to stick. But then there'll be it happen again in a couple chapters later when he's in Saul's camp, and Abishai, his right-hand man, one of the 30, says, look, he's right there. Let's just tell me and I'll kill him. And Jacob and David rebukes him and says, no, you're not going to lift up your hand against the Lord's anointed. No. And then they have another encounter at a distance. It's, I could have done it again. I didn't do it. That was David's approach. And there was a third one after Saul is killed. Remember that one, 2 Samuel? That's a fascinating one. 2 Samuel, Saul is killed in battle. Sort of. Yeah, he's wounded.
He falls on his own sword.
Falls on his own sword.
Doesn't die, so he asks his,
Yeah, that's right.
Elite or whatever it was,
Well, he asked his armor
Yeah.
bearer to kill him, and he would, so he ended up falling on his own sword. And then the armor bearer kills himself, and then that guy comes and said, hey, I killed him.
the mouth.
David kills him.
Yeah, so this Amalekite figures he's going to get in good with the next king. So he comes out, he's an Amalekite, hint, hint, right? David ain't particularly fond of Amalekites. We already know that
Saul's supposed to have killed them all.
from when he lived in Ziklag, and he went down and killed the Amalekites. So he comes in, he takes credit for it, thinking he's gonna get rewarded. And it goes exactly the opposite. He says, you did what? I actually called this one up. Verse 14, how is it that you were not afraid to put out your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? Don't you know I could have done that more than once? Did you think that I did that so that he could be killed by you in my name? You undid my virtue, my honorable deeds you undid, in a sense. David called one of his, go execute him, struck him down so that he died. Your blood be on your own head, for your own mouth has testified against you, saying, I have killed the Lord's anointed. And then there's the lament for Saul. That's how it's done. You're waiting out the plan of God. That's what he did. He waited out the plan of God, and things unfolded. We have the opposite. Either way, God's will be done, but the opposite happens. And we'll get to the actual encounter. This is a really nasty story. I mean, he makes a fool out of his father. And then it's not done. His mother's gonna have to step back in through deception and get Isaac to send Jacob away so that Esau won't kill him. You know, so they just kind of make a fool out of Isaac here in his old age. It's ugly. And that's how the story of Jacob begins. It's a mess right from the start, man. It's remarkable. It's going to continue all the way through till chapter, whenever they end up in Egypt, 49 or whatever chapter that is.
Where is it?
All right, we're going to stop there. It's 10:14. Anybody want the last word? I get it.
Bye. Thank you, Gary.
All right, we'll see you later, Gabe.
Hey,
Thanks,
Gary,
Green.
Gary,
Yeah.
this would be the first time that a man didn't listen to his wife if Rachel did tell him that.
Probably, yeah.
All right, y'all have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.